Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be cleaning up an old school Nintendo, just showing you what I do to get these ready for sale. This one actually has a sticker on the top that says not working, blinking red light, and a lot of times that's really just a 72-pin connector has gotten so dirty that the game can't communicate with the board anymore, or the board can't register or identify that a game is actually in it. So it just gives you the blinking red light when you power it on, which I'm thinking is probably the case with this one, because I don't know if it's going to show up on camera really good, but this one has definitely seen better days. It's quite dirty. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to get it over to the test area, plug it in, put a game in it, and see if maybe we can get it to have a solid red light, or maybe we can actually get something to show up on screen, or if we just have the same issue that they put on the top here. But yeah, let's go on over there. All right, so we're over here now. We got everything hooked up. As you can see, it's definitely a blinking red light. So what I want to do is I'm going to put in our test game, which is Kung Fu Heroes. Yeah, the 80s and 90s were a different time. You could make a game like this. But yeah, so this has become really like our test game. It's actually not a bad game though, to be honest. If you like old school style, like beat 'em ups, it's pretty fun, pretty simple. But okay, yeah, so I don't know how, there's like nothing. Like the grip is gone. The grip is completely gone. Like it's super loose. Keep the jokes. But yeah, there's nothing there. So I'm sure, yeah, we're not going to get any communication. The 72-pin connector in this thing is just gone. All the pins are probably just pushed flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift those pins up after we clean them off and sand them. And then this thing probably should work really good. But before we do that, we are going to show, like how I go through and clean everything up, and just kind of de-yellow it as well, because this one does have some yellowing on it. So we're going to take that out before we sell it. All right, so we're back here over at the table. We're going to start tearing this down. The great part about a Nintendo console is really you can do everything that we're going to need to do with just a Phillips head. I do have this small flathead right here because these two black pieces are held in with like really small flathead screws. So if you want to do like a full deep clean, which is what we're going to do, then you have to take these two off, of course, to get underneath of it. But if you're just cleaning one at home and you really don't care about that, then I mean, you could just clean it from the top. It's not really going to matter much. You're probably mostly concerned with fixing the 72-pin connector in it, so you don't have to sit there and keep blowing in your games and all types of crazy stuff to get it to work. But starting off, we have 6 screws we're going to need to take out. Got one here, there, here, 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 and here. So let's go ahead and get those out. Another good thing to point out is that all of the screws, besides like maybe not counting the black ones for the little black pieces I was telling you about, it's probably only like 2 screws, but the majority of them are all going to be these. Oh, maybe if I don't drop it, but they're all going to be like these little gold screws right there. So that's another good thing about these older consoles. There's not as many different size screws that you have to keep track of, which makes tearing these things down a lot easier. Well, putting them back together after you tore them down, because sometimes when you're doing the newer consoles, especially if you're not 100%, and someone might have been in this one, because you can see that this screw has been raised. So that's not a good sign. I hate working behind people. That doesn't matter if it's consoles, cars, whatever. I just don't like working behind people if I can help it. So hopefully we don't open this up and it's just a complete bomb. But let's see. All right. Okay, and all those screws came out. So we got our 6 there. We'll slide them off to the side. Open this up. Yeah. Okay, nothing alive, so that's good. Yeah, but yeah, these are, if you can see up here, these are the screws I was talking about. So you have the 2 there, you have 1, 2, 3 there. Also, I forgot those screws are also what's holding this flap on. So you have that screw right there is going to do it, and you also have a screw right there. So that's what's holding this little flap on right here. Again, if you want to completely disassemble it, then you will need to do that. You will take these screws off, which we're about to do, in order to break it all the way down. Works best to do it that way if you're going to de-yellow it, just because you get to get in all the corners and creases and stuff. It's just better if that's the route you're going. You can see here, this is quite dirty, so yeah, I'm not shocked that it's not reading any games. But all the screws look like they're there, so that's weird that one screw would have been raised like that, like somebody, you know, couldn't get it back in or something. But first, let's go ahead and we'll tear this apart. We'll slide you over to the side. I just use this because it makes getting these little screws out so much easier. I hate doing it with just, like, I guess regular power. I don't really know what else to call a normal flathead. But it always slips out of my hands, like, all the time. Like, well, it slips off the bolt, and it just gets so frustrating because I wish that they didn't use these little small screws at all. But hey, it is what it is. And after you take off those 3 screws, you'll get this little metal piece right here. It's like a little bracket or whatever that holds that in. This, you'll see like the little ridge right there, like has a little cut. That's the one that's gonna go back in here. So that's how you know which way to put this in. Also, it's the only one with a hole in the top that the screw can go through. So, but there's one of these black pieces right there that just fell off. We'll get the other side. Okay, and didn't come all the way out there. There we go. Yeah. Take this one off, and that'll fall right out. So, yeah, just easier way to clean that up. Let's get these 2 out here in the back. All right, and this should slide right on down. See, a lot of dirt packed in there behind that thing. So, again, it's pretty good if you can, you know, take those off, and then you can get a lot of that dirt that's under there that you're not going to be able to get to if you leave those on. So let's sit that over there, bring you back over. Now we'll start with the rest of it. First thing we want to do is you want to take off, should be 1, 2, 3. Let's see how I'm going to do this. 4, 5, and then 6 and 7. And that takes off this metal shield on the top here. Again, all these screws coming out are going to be the same size, same length as the ones you took from the bottom of the console, which is something you'll run across if you ever decide to get into this, where you kind of like buy old consoles or buy just consoles and fix them. The Nintendo ones are famous for people not wanting you to know that they've been in them, especially when they're selling them and they're saying like, hey, you know, doesn't play games or just something wrong with it or whatever. And you look at the bottom, you'll see like all 6 screws are in the case. Then you open this up and you'll notice the screws just like missing everywhere because they had to pick them from inside of the console to make it, to put all 6 in the bottom so that you know that, you know, or so that you think that nobody's been in there. That's one of the things you run into a lot. But yeah, those out. This will just lift right on up off. Not too dirty underneath of there. Set that to the side. One good thing is that almost everything in here, besides like the controller ports, obviously the buttons over here, and the board itself, you know, you really can just throw in the wash in this. Well, you can throw this little assembly in there if you want. I don't like to because of the springs right there, but you know, to each his own. Some people feel like it'll mess it up. I'm one of those people. Other people feel like they don't. Now, let me see. Then the next ones you want to take out are these 6. There's one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. Now note that this one and this one right here, these 2 middle screws, those are going to be long. Those are longer than any other screw you're going to take out, and those have to be put right back there in order for this little mechanism to work right. Now, one thing that's kind of a red flag for me right now is that those screws are the same gold color as the rest of them. Usually these screws are long and they are silver. So let's see. They look like these are longer. So let's see. Oh, so yeah, they are longer, but they're just gold. So we're gonna actually sit those two off to the side. Those two longer ones, put them by themselves, just make it easier to spot them. Like I said, usually they're silver or chrome or whatever you want to call it, so they really stand out. But I'm more so concerned that they are longer because they have to be, which they are, so that's cool. I don't really care that they're not the silver color. Maybe somebody tried to replace this, or maybe at some point in its life, Nintendo just stopped caring about whether or not they were a different color. And once you get those off, all you want to do is you just want to kind of pull this to you like this, and you lift up because you're just trying to clear the board. I'll show you the lip when you take it off, but once you kind of clear the board, just scoot it back off of the 72 pin connector. There we go. And that's the lip I was talking about. That lip sits underneath your board right here, so you want to kind of pull it to you first so that can clear, and then you lift up, then you kind of scoot it back. It comes off. Might feel a lot of resistance because obviously it's probably the first time that thing's ever been off, and my poor glove is giving up right there. But yeah, it's probably the first time it's ever been off, so you know, dirt can turn into glue apparently over time. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out our board, and that's just going to be a screw here and a screw here. Those are the last two screws that should be holding our board in. Here's one, and here is two. Come on out of there, screw. And oh, there it is. Okay. So after that, we just lift this one up. You can see we have these. You have a blue wire right here, or blue, I don't know, connector to take out, and then you have a green connector and a green connector. Those two green ones are for your controller, so I usually pull those first. They usually pretty easy to come out. Just wiggle them back and forth, and there we go. So those two are out. The next I pull is the blue one. You can kind of bend this little shield up some if you want. It's just a little thin piece of metal, is not much to it, so you can get a better grip on it. And then I just wiggle it back and forth until I get it to come out. Once those come out, then your board's done. You have your board out, you flip it over, you can just peel this shield off. There's no screws or anything holding that on. And then your 72 pin connector, you literally just pull off of there. Now your experience will be different just depending on you know, how yours is. Some of them are quite a pain to get off. Some of them slide right off, so we'll see. Oh, this one, oh, that one came off really easily. I've had some where I've literally had to like really pull with all my might to get it to come off. Yeah, so let's see here. So you can see the pins are actually in pretty good shape. Like they're not, I've seen tons worse than this, so that's a good sign that the pins are all there. They're all, you know, they're not corroded or anything. There's no breaks in the leads. And this is going to be hard to see, but hopefully you can see it. But those pins are all flat, so that's why there's no grip or anything when we put the game in. And that's why we're getting the blinking red light. I would bet, like, I'd bet money that that's what's going on. Basically, there's just no connection to the game. That's why we're getting the blinking red light. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray in some isopropyl alcohol. We're going to sand these a little bit with some, I believe the one I'm going to use 800 grit. You can actually go a little lower if you want. The one I have might be a little lower. I'll let you know when we get to that point what it actually is, but I believe it's 800. So I usually just spray with some isopropyl alcohol, take a toothbrush, I just clean on up in there, clean down here, and then go behind it with the sandpaper, sand it some, sand all of these leads, well, all of these little tips, these brass tips, then come back behind it, blow it out with some compressed air, spray it again with some isopropyl alcohol, clean it back up with the toothbrush, compress the air, and then I start lifting these up. So, but we'll go through that when we get to that step. But right now we're just going to finish taking these out. Now the next thing you want to take out, your button assembly here. It's just going to be 2 screws, a screw here and a screw over here. This screw will be hidden kind of under these wires, so you'll just have to move that. And if you're wondering, these screws are, or these buttons are what that blue connector was you pulled out of the board a little earlier. So just throw that over there. Throw that screw over there, and then that board just picks right on up off. Just watch for your okay, maybe we'll have to, let me see, there we go. Okay, so yeah, that's it. These I usually just clean up with some isopropyl alcohol. If these do become yellowed on you, these ones actually don't look yellowed at all. But if they were yellowed, if yours were really bad, what I do is I take saran wrap and I just kind of wrap it all around everything except the buttons. And I just, cover all that up. And then I put the the hydrogen peroxide on these buttons. Put it on there. And then, or you can use stuff. They sell stuff online like Retro Bright, stuff like that. Basically any de-yellowing solution usually works. Then I put that on the buttons. Then I wrap the buttons with saran wrap. And then I'll put it underneath the UV lamp to get that yellow out. But that's how you do it without getting it on the board. Because you don't want peroxide and stuff getting on the board. I just don't do that. But so yeah, the only thing left right now to take out, and we're done, is these two controller ports. And they are being held on. Well, you can see all the dirt in there right now. They're being held on with these 2 screws right there. So just turn it over, and it's still weird that this one screw is like in there crooked, because so far I haven't seen anything that's bad. And I don't know why it would be this dirty if somebody opened it up to try to clean it to maybe, get it back working. You would think that I would have seen a lot cleaner console. But once you take those out, all you do is just, there you go. You just pop it, lift it up. It like just sits in, it sits down and then over. So basically lift up and then slide up. And then that black piece comes off. These controller ports, stupid dust bunny. These controller ports you just pull out the front. So just kind of help your wire out there. Stick that over there. Same thing with this one. And I told you earlier, your board is going to be sitting in like this when it's facing you, and the controller port is there that plugs into, or this wire plugs in there, and another one plugs in here. So the way to kind of know which one goes where is that controller port number 2 has a longer wire, and that way it can reach around and get to the side, and controller port 1 has a shorter wire. So if you like which one goes where, that's how you know. I don't know if controller port 1 will reach around to the side or not, but it'd probably be really tense, so it would just feel like something's wrong. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take all of this and take it over to the sink cam. We're gonna leave this here because I'll just clean that up with just some plastic cleaner and stuff and blow that out. I just really am not a big fan of putting this in there. You can, you honestly could just do this. Like if you wanted to, basically just pull the spring down right there. But you know what? We'll just do that just so people can see it. But yeah, and you just take the spring out right there. So it's not a ton to it. Same here. Just pull the spring down out to the side and take it out. So very easy to put back in. It's not like it's the end of the world or anything. And yeah, so that's your little assembly. You got your little piece down here. Just make sure you blow all this out after we do it. So you don't want any water sitting up in there and it gets on your board later on, or just in your console period. But let's take all of our pieces, put them all here, there. We'll grab this. Okay, so now we got about everything we're gonna put in the water. Let's go jump to the water. All right, so we're here, we're getting our water going. If you're wondering what I use for soap, I just use some palm olive. You can use any type of dish soap or whatever. That's usually what I use for almost any plastic parts or anything that I clean. I just got a couple brushes here, a soft bristle brush, a little more firm bristle brush, Scotch Brite pad, and of course we got the soft and a little more of an agitate right here. But yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest. Usually this stuff works. It cleans it up really well. after I clean all this stuff up, I usually let it sit out under a fan or something, or you can just let it sit out on a towel if you don't have a fan. Let it sit for a few hours. Make sure the stuff is really dry before you put it back together. You don't want to introduce any water to your electronics if you can help it, so just make sure that they are really dry before you put them back together. We'll start here. Yeah, I think this is actually the first time I've really got to use this sink since I put it down here. I've been meaning to do this for a while, just because like I would have stuff to clean, and I would go upstairs and there would be dishes in the sink. So then by the time I would do the dishes, then I was like, now I don't feel like going back downstairs to go clean that thing off. So that's really how this whole sink came to be. I was like, you know what? I just need a sink downstairs that I can do all my cleaning with. And that way I don't have to worry about coming, upstairs and downstairs. I can kind of keep everything close by. And that just helps with productivity, to be honest. Not only because it's like less walking and less moving of stuff you have to do, but a lot of times just having to like take a lot of stuff to a different area will make you procrastinate and just say, you know what, I'm a fool with something else that I don't have to go do that with. So a lot of these black marks come right out. I just put a little elbow grease to them. But yeah, as you can see, you probably can pick it up a little better now, like the yellowing. So like a lot of that stuff is going to come right out once we do the hydrogen peroxide and the UV bath. I'll show you the stuff that I use. I actually don't just use the hydrogen peroxide you get from out the grocery store. Although you can use that, there's nothing wrong with using it. I actually use like a cream solution that I buy in bulk. I just find that works a little better for me, and I don't look super weird going in there buying tons and tons of bottles of hydrogen peroxide. Because in the beginning I definitely got those looks before. I actually had one lady at the register was like, what do you do with all this hydrogen peroxide? Because it was probably like the second time I came in there, and the store is pretty small. It's a small store, so like, and it just still recognize you, especially with something like off like that, where you don't see too many people coming in there buying just tons and tons of hydrogen peroxide. So when you see it more than once, you kind of like, I remember that guy. Like, what the heck are you up to? So, clean all that off. Let's see, try to get down in here. Yeah, these things clean up really nice. So even if you have one that's been sitting around for years and years and years, you think that it's too far gone, I can almost guarantee you that it's not. You definitely could clean yours up, get it back looking almost good as new. The only thing would be, obviously, is the yellowing. So you would have to use some type of de-yellowing process in order to get that part back and get that standard gray color that they came in, to get that back. If you don't have UV lamps, you also can just put them outside. So if you put like peroxide in them or on them, put them in like a bag or saran wrap or something like that to try to stop it from drying out, you can actually just put them outside, and the sun will provide UV rays to take this yellow out. So that's, if you don't want to, go buy a lamp or anything like that, that's always an option as well. Even when you go outside with the sun, you don't have to use peroxide if you don't want to. It might just take a little longer, but it will get the yellow out. So that one's pretty much done there. Kind of clean that up. Got that looking a lot better. It'll look even better once we get the yellow out. That's really what's kind of holding that part back. We'll sit that off to the side. Alright, next one we'll knock out is this. Oh, I forgot to tell y'all, this part right here literally just clips in. So, like, it's sitting in there like that. So all you do is just squeeze in on the sides and peel it out. That was like the last part that I didn't take off on the first part of the video, but that's how I got that part off. If you're looking at it like, wait, how do you get that thing off? That's how that happened. I try to be careful around the stickers as much as possible. Sometimes these black marks won't come out with just soap and water and a little irritation. If they don't, like this one's kind of being a little pain about, it's coming out, but it is taking, you know, quite a bit of back and forth. You can go use like isopropyl alcohol or a little bit of a harsher cleaner possibly in this little spot area. As you see, if you really just keep working it back and forth, it will come out. Or you can go up to just something that's a little more agitative than this. Because even though this does have, you know, it is a little rough on the back, it's not crazy. So sometimes like these little spots, they'll take a little bit more to get out than what this little pad will provide. So that's probably what I'll do with the last little spot, is I'll just go get like a grade up of a Scotch pad and put that on there to get that out. Because for whatever reason, this has a lot of these black marks on the bottom, and I'm not trying to sit here and scrub forever with this thing trying to get them out. But I'll show you what I do with that when we go over there and start doing the 72 pin connector as well. Just in here. All up in there, nice and good. All right. Make sure you get up in all the cracks and corners. You can see like that's kind of yellowed as well. I mean, flip it that side and then flip it back that side. You can see, you know, the discoloration on it. So just little stuff like that. You know, you kind of want to get rid of that. You know, especially if you're going to be selling this, you don't want to sell yellowed stuff to people. But then again, I guess it depends on how you sell it too. So if you sell it on like Mercari or eBay or something where you can take, you know, good pictures showing the condition of it and showing that, hey, you know, it does have some yellowing, but maybe you went through and you fixed up everything else, then, you know, nothing wrong with that. As long as the people who are potentially buying it know what they're getting. So if they don't care about the yellowing, then hey, you know, doesn't make you a bad person or a bad seller for selling it like that. You know, it's only bad if, you know, the customer doesn't get a chance to actually see, you know, hey, well, this one's coming with, you know, yellowing on it, even though that they would probably expect, like, especially for someone like me who sells on Walmart, they buy it, they're not expecting to get a yellowed console. They're expecting to get one that looks, honestly, everyone really is expecting to get one that looks basically brand new, even though they're buying under a used listing. But that's just the way it is. So I try to make sure that I get all of that yellow out, so it's just a nice bright gray console in the box when you open it up. I don't do this, but if you wanted to, like if you really was a stickler for these parts and you wanted them to like have almost like a mirror finish, you could take a Scotch Brite, or not a Scotch, a Brillo pad to these, and it will clean up like all of that like metal stuff or metal blemishes or whatever on it. I don't do that because it's just not it's not worth it to me, to be honest. But if you wanted to go that route, like if you wanted to really detail this thing, you could do that and really kind of bring out that metal and give it a real good shine. All right. Do be careful with your hands when you're dealing with these two metal shields. They are sharp, so be careful. You will get a, I guess, for lack of a better word, you'll get a paper cut. And sometimes you don't even realize it. You're sitting there cleaning these things and They're just like moving around in your hand. Next thing you know, some water or something hit your hand later, and it's stinging, and you're like, what in the world? And you're like, yep, that thing cut you. All right, so we're almost through. We only got a few more pieces to touch. I said it doesn't take long to clean these things out. I would say the longest process about all of this will be doing the de-yellowing, just because you have to you gotta wait. You know, depending on how bad the yellowing is, it could be, you know, it could be like a day. Sometimes it could be 2 or 3 days it takes to get all of the yellow out. Just depends on how bad off yours is. So a lot of times that's like the majority of your waiting is just waiting to get all of the yellow out. All right. If there ain't no soap up in there, shake them out. And last couple pieces. This brush right here works really well for just getting in all those little cracks and crevices on them to get any of that dirt that's trying to hide. Any more pieces? I think that's actually it. Nope, forgot about this piece. So one thing to watch for when you're cleaning off this one is if you got like something like this that has a little agitation to it, something like this, do not rub really hard on here, because you will rub this paint right off. You'll be cleaning it, then you'll go to put it back together, and instead of a Nintendo entertainment system, you'll have like a Nino. All of the tin to be gone. You clean all the tin right on off of it. So just be careful with that. Use something soft. If you have like a little spot like that black one, of course, like I said, you can take something like this. But if it's on the actual the lettering right here, just be really careful, because that will come right off. Had that happen to me before with the gun for duck hunt. I think I took the O right off of it, or the N. It was one of them. I was just like, man, I didn't even realize, you know, how thin that paint was right there. This was in the heat of things, just cleaning, and didn't really pay much attention to what I was doing. Got too rough. Okay, so we're going to sit those out to dry, and while those are drying, we'll jump back in and we'll do the 72 pin connector cleanup. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clean the 72 pin connector up. As you can see, all of them are extremely flat. They're not going to be, they need to be lifted up so that way they can actually touch the leads on the game. Send that back down to these ones, which is going to be what's on the actual board. And then that's how the game and the board on your Nintendo communicates. So what we're going to do is, first I'm going to lift one up just to kind of show you around what it should look like. Now this one might be a little higher than it needs to be, but pretty much that's kind of where well, that was a little too high. You don't want them touching the ceiling, which I like to call it touching the ceiling. But basically, you want them lifted up so that it can actually touch it. Now, just because they are, for lack of a better term, touching the ceiling in this case, doesn't mean that it won't work. What is going to actually happen is you're just going to get what they call the death grip. So when you put in a game, you're going to have to push it in a little hard, and when you pull it out, you're going to have to use some force to get the game out. That's usually the knock on people using aftermarket 72-pin connectors, buying new ones on like Amazon, things like that, is that those pins are actually up higher and they hold onto the game harder, so it makes it more difficult to push the game in and out. To me, I don't mind it, but some people do. But that's what you're going to get if you push them up too high. So first thing I do is I lift them all up, and then I follow up with the sandpaper, fold it over like this, stick it in there. Basically you're just putting it right on up in there, and you just boom, 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 like that, just to get the dirt off. If you're wondering, I'm using a 320 grit sandpaper. You don't have to go this low if you don't want to. I would say at least use 800, maybe a little lower. You don't have to sand like crazy. You'll see what I'm talking about, but it just, helps clean these up, get you back to some good exposed metal. And then that's when we'll come in with our 91% isopropyl alcohol and clean it up with this toothbrush and some compressed air here. So I'll probably speed this up, but I'm gonna go through and lift all of these up. I'm using just a little set of tweezers right here to just get under and lift them up. Just find something small and flat, and that's pretty much it. It's really not much else, but you're just going through, just lift them up one by one. It does take a little bit of time. It's just a tedious thing, but I find that refurbishing the OEM 72-pin connectors is just better than buying them new on Amazon, even though they're pretty cheap. If you want to just get one new on Amazon and you're like, you know what, I don't care that it has a death grip, you can literally just go on Amazon and get a replacement one for, I think they usually sell them for around maybe $10 or so. So what's that? If you don't want to go this route, you can definitely go easier route without doing all this tedious work. Honestly, if it was my personal Nintendo, I would just buy one off Amazon or somewhere and just put that in there and call it a day. Because over time, even though it does have that death grip, the more you play it and put a game in and put a game out, it's going to knock those pins down. So it's not like it's just going to have the death grip forever. It's just only, while it's fresh and new. But the more you play the console and, keep putting the game in and out, it'll actually work that death grip right on out of it. Because that's essentially what happens to the regular 72-pin connectors. It's just, over time, the game just, it knocks these pins down over and over. Keep putting the game in and out, in and out. It knocks these pins down, and they lose that lift that they need to actually communicate with the game or to make the connection with the game. Oh boy. I don't worry too much about lifting these up, too high while I'm doing this, because I know I'm about to follow right up behind it with the sandpaper. That's going to knock them down some. I'm also going to clean it with the toothbrush. That's going to knock them down some. So it usually works pretty well going that route. You can also boil these. A lot of people will boil theirs on the stove in some hot water for 5 minutes or so. So after you clean them all out and do all this stuff that we're about to do, you throw it in a pot of water that's boiling on the stove for about 5 minutes. What it does is the heat loosens up the metal, so that way you take you a game that I would say a game you don't care much about, because you're about to introduce water and stuff, on those leads to that game, and you basically just slide it in and out a few, like 10 to 15 times or so, and while that metal's hot, you're just working it basically working them back down into a to like their original position, and then you won't have that death grip. So that's one way you can go about it if you are really concerned about it, or if you're really particular about the death grip. Everybody's preference is not the same. So just because, I don't mind it doesn't mean that it is not extremely annoying to somebody else. So just keep that in mind. If you're one of those people who want it to be a certain way, then definitely make that extra effort to get it that way. Now, I will say, like, over time, as you're doing this more and more, you kind of just develop like a muscle memory for doing this, to where you kind of can, I don't know, it's weird, but you just feel like how much lift should be there when you're doing it. I guess it's kind of like Steph Curry shooting free throws or something. Like, after a while, you just kind of know. So we've lifted these up. You can see some are higher than others, but they're definitely a lot higher than what they were when we started. And so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray it down with some isopropyl alcohol. There we go. Nice and just fold it up. We'll put our sandpaper in there. Just work it back and forth. All right, that should be about good enough. Okay. Spray off any of that residue. Hit it again with the isopropyl alcohol. And let's follow up with a toothbrush. Get that nice and in there, just to kind of clean up those leads a little more. Now, if you're wondering, if you're using like 91% or higher, you don't really have to worry about like making sure this is like super dry, because one, it doesn't take that long to dry it. Spray down here. I don't pick these leads up because usually these ones are fine. I just clean them out though with some isopropyl alcohol in the toothbrush, just to make a really good connection. These ones are usually fine, and they also usually never like dirty, just because this connection kind of never is open to air or anything. Like, once they put it on there at the factory, nobody's ever usually taking this thing off. So usually these leads and everything are normally pretty good. But these ones are the ones that get exposed to air and get exposed to dirty games and things like that, and just people putting stuff in their games to try to clean it, like isopropyl alcohol. But sometimes people used to use like rubbing alcohol, water, all kinds of things. People who blow in their games, your saliva actually sticks on those leads, and your saliva is corrosive to these leads. So that's really what kind of damages these things, is using stuff like that. 91% and higher is fine, but back in those days, people did believe in the blow method. Over time, and it felt like it worked, but over time it actually does more damage to these things than good. So that's just something to keep in mind if you were one of those people. We can go in, we can kind of adjust some of these a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can go in, maybe some of them I don't feel is lifted up a little much. But like I said, you can kind of do that. And if you wanted to, let's see, let me grab a game really quick. And like I said, if you wanted to take a game, you can kind of just slide this one up in there like so. You just push your game in and then pull it. That'll kind of tell you like, what kind of grip you're gonna have. That's not actually bad. Now, this would be the same thing you would do as if you boiled it on the stove. I'm just gonna hit this one more time because that's my test game. It just sits out. I don't want to, leave any dirt or anything from that on there. But you would do the same thing basically if you had boiled this. And that process right there, you do that like 10 times or so, it would just help break that in to where it doesn't hold onto the game so crazy. So yeah, that's getting your 72 pin connector situated. The next thing we're going to show is doing the UV treatment. That might be something some people do, some people might skip it, but I'll show you what I do to go about getting that done. And then we'll put the console together and then we'll test it to see if we can get it working. All right, so we let everything dry and now it's time to actually apply the hydrogen peroxide cream that I use on these couple pieces that need to be de-yellowed. These are usually the only 3 pieces that you'll ever need to actually de-yellow. A lot of times these ones are fine, but this one right here does have a little bit of staining. So we're going to do the gray part as well. One thing to note is once you do this process, and I usually wrap mine in some saran wrap. You can put it in a plastic bag or something if you want. Basically, you just want to kind of try to keep the air off of it so that the cream or the hydrogen peroxide you're putting on it doesn't dry up and just evaporate. You kind of want to keep it nice and moist the whole time it's under the UV treatment. Note that the UV lamps will generate heat, so be prepared for that or be aware of that because that can accelerate the drying process as well. Again, make sure I usually try to use a liberal amount on here so that it doesn't evaporate. And also that's why I keep the saran wrap, because I can wrap it tight and try to lock that moisture in. So just note, you don't want this stuff to evaporate. It will not end well. You'll end up with like a lot of staining on there. It'll be spots where it's like really bright. It'll just look weird. So just be aware of that. You don't have to be too worried, just especially if it's personal use, but just be aware. You want to kind of monitor that. So first thing we're going to do is I have this it's called cream peroxide developer. This is what I use anyway. It's pretty strong, which is why I use it, because I don't have to wait as long. Basically, I just take a brush. I couldn't find my smaller brush, so I just grabbed this one for the video. But as you can see, it's kind of a little big. But normally I do like probably about half this size. And I just put some of the peroxide in this cup. And basically, I just paint it on there. So that's what you're going to see me do now. We will start with the main part, which of course is this. This is the one that's usually always going to get the most yellow. I only focus on the outside or the top, I guess. I don't really care about the middle. Like, I don't really care about the under part. No one's going to see this. I just don't really care about bleaching this part. And normally this part doesn't get yellow. But this is the part that I focus on. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to spread out a little saran wrap just to kind of give a little barrier between this table and the Nintendo cover. Let's see. I hate this stuff because it sticks. Then I also love it because it sticks. So it's kind of whatever, I guess. All right, let's move this down. I probably won't need any more of that. Make sure, even like I said, do this on a table that you really don't care about. This is one of those tables for me, because you don't want this stuff just getting all over your table because it might mess it up. But yeah, so basically, I'll just get a liberal amount on here. Let's see, I actually put a little bit on there. Not really worried, like I said, about putting too much, because I do want it to stay nice and moist. Now, I know you'll see ones online where, people have like whole tubs that's just dedicated to doing these peroxide treatments. If that's something you want to do, then that works as well. I just don't do it like that because I find I can get the same results with using a lot less hydrogen peroxide. And also, one of the main benefits of going this route is just you also can, I can just keep covering it. So what people don't really realize is that when you do those hydrogen peroxide like baths and stuff, that peroxide just doesn't sit like that forever. So you will have to change out that tub every so often and fill it back up with all that peroxide you use. So basically, once you do the tub the first time, the clock is already ticking on that tub of peroxide. Now, if you're somebody who does this a lot, then yeah, that, probably won't matter to you much, because you'll be able to get a lot of usage out of that tub before it dies. But if you're somebody who only does this once in a blue moon, then yeah, you probably don't want to waste your money building a big tub of hydrogen peroxide that you might only get like one use out of. So that's just something to keep in mind, just in case it's not something you're planning on doing a lot. All right, so that should be good enough. We'll dip that back in there. Now what I'll do is basically just wrap this over like so. And take my cutter here. Cut that. Okay. All right, got that. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to wrap the opposite way. So there, wrap it on around here, there. Like I said, I cut right through my table. That's all right. This is just a work table. It's not here to be pretty. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's kind of all I need. We'll sit that to the side, and basically we'll do the same thing. I kind of wish I didn't cut through my table though. But hey, what are you gonna do? Same thing here. Basically, we're just gonna throw a whole bunch on here. And you kind of definitely want to make sure you focus on the areas that have the most yellowing. So usually on these ones, it's a lot of the corners, the sides of the gray ones are usually the ones that get the yellow stains on them. The bottom normally never does, just because the bottom is usually kind of safe because it's on the bottom. There's nothing there to really get that bromine. That's what the yellow stuff is. It's just basically bromine. If you want, you could use some type of eye protection or anything like that. Normally I would do this in like a tub, but I figured it'd just be easier to do it this way because I can show you more clearly what I'm doing, and any spills on this table, like I said, I really don't care about, and I can just wipe off the excess after I'm done. So if you're wondering, you're like, man, this guy's making a mess. It's like, yeah, I kind of anticipated it to be a mess. So this is not shocking to me at all. But yeah, that's pretty much good there. And that's why I said I like doing it this route instead of the huge tub, because like literally it's like maybe a third of a cup, maybe a fourth of a cup of this cream peroxide instead of having like a huge tub. So it just seems like, one, it'll make these stuff just stretch a lot more. And of course now I can't find where this dang thing starts at. All right. There. Boom. All right. There. Same thing, but we're going to do start on this other side. Okay, and boom, it's pretty much all we need. So that's done. The last one is going to be our little Nintendo Entertainment Center one. For that one, we can just We'll lay this out really quick. Just throw some on it, and we should be good to go. There we go. Okay, and that's good. So let's put that on over like so. There, there. Pull that up. Get us a quick cut off of there. Roll that in. Tuck those in on the corners. That's it. So that's how I get that part done. They're all three saran wrapped up. We still have a ton of this stuff left. So like I said, you can use a lot less and get great results without having to do like a full tub that you have to constantly switch out like every month or so. Because I think peroxide outside of the case only has like, basically once you open peroxide, I think it has like a month shelf life or something like that. So you can double check that if you want. But like I said, I feel like you get a lot more with a lot less going this route with just saran wrap and the hydrogen cream peroxide. Or you can use something, you can actually use something like this. I used to use the Retro Bright. The only thing is, like, this stuff is like $20 some for just this little bottle. I paid, I want to say, about 20 some bucks for this. So that I'll actually put the link to this in Amazon, the Amazon link to that in this description. And yeah, it makes sense just to go the bulk route. Other than this is nice because you can just spray it, but I'd rather be able to actually like kind of paint it on. It kind of works better for me. But yeah, let me sit this saran wrap back over there, and I'm gonna bring in my makeshift UV tub, and then yeah, that'll be it. So let's move over to the UV lamp. All right, so it's done doing the UV treatment. You can see here that looks way better than what it did before we started. So yeah, this stuff, I mean, if you go through it, it definitely can work. I mean, this looks a whole lot better than what it did. So it's definitely worth the process or worth the time invested if you want to go through it. But now we're just going to go ahead and put all this back together. Then we're going to take it over there, test it, make sure everything works. And then if it works, it'll be good to go. So let's start. We'll move all this stuff over here out of the way, because a lot of this stuff we won't need until a little bit later. But first, we'll move that up. We will slide in our board here. Let's see. So let's put this on here. There we go. When you're putting this on, you just want these, see those three grippers right there? Basically, they slide down on the outside of this little cartridge piece. There we go. Got that on. Now, let's set this off. Oh, shoot. Every time, every video, you want to pull that back off. You got to put your, you got to make sure you put this on first, or else it's not going to work. Let's see. So just slide. You want to slide the part that has the two rows of teeth facing each other. That's going to be it. This is going to be what's facing the top. So you want the game part like this. So basically just get it on and push it on nice and tight. There we go. Okay, and now we can put this back on. So, there we go. Okay, so we have that. Now let's grab our buttons. Going to put those in. Slide that in right there. Grab our, where's our two screws for the buttons? Probably doesn't matter. We'll grab this one and we'll grab this one. Sometimes the two screws that holds the power button in, and the power and the reset buttons in, sometimes those are silver, so they like stand out. On this one, it wasn't silver. They were just a regular gold color or brass colored bolts. So Oh shoot. So it made it a little different for me. Most time though they are silver, so. But then again, I mean, Nintendo could have just changed how they were, you know, putting in the bolts later on. But usually they are silver. Okay, don't have to over tighten it. It is plastic. There we go. There we go. Okay, all good there. You want to route your cord down behind that. Well, yeah. Basically, you just want to kind of tuck it, and you can have it come over here around the corner. Basically, just prepping it for when it's time to put in the board, because it's going to be connecting right there, and then you got your controller port. So all right, this one is the shorter one, so you want to make sure you put this into the first slot, which is right here. Just move that cord out the way for now. And this one is the longer one, so of course that one's going to be your second player. Just route that over here in the corner because we know it's going around. Then we take basically our little trim piece, our black trim piece that holds in the controllers. Put it on. We're going to slide it down from the top. Let's see here. Okay, just make sure they're flush down. There we go. Okay. Then all we need to do is, let's see here, kind of hold that a little bit. You're going to look for 2 silver screws with like flat tops at the head. Those are the 2 that goes here. So they stand out pretty well. Again, you don't have to like really wear down on these bolts or anything. Like, again, it's plastic, so you don't want to over tighten it. You just want to kind of get them nice and snug, and it's fine. All right, so flip that back. We have our controller ports in. The next thing we want to put in is our board. So, matter of fact, while we're doing this part, you know, we'll do that last. We took it off last, so we'll put it back on last. But you want this part facing the back, so you can see where the little like inputs go. And okay, got that. That's sitting down in there. Maybe I should have plugged it up first, huh? We'll go ahead and plug these where they're supposed to go. One. Get our where's it at? Get our controller port right there. Oh, no wonder. Upside down. I'm over here huffing and puffing, and it's like, you're doing it wrong, bro. You're doing it wrong. All right. Let's see. And this one, which is right there. Okay. So, again, sit it back down in there. All right. Everything's nice and flush. Just tuck your wires down. Go. And tuck that wire under there. Tuck that right there. There's not really anything moving, so I mean, they don't have to be like, you know, perfect for the wire. As long as they're out of the way and they're not blocking the case from shutting, you're good to go. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to put on our 2 bolts, one here and one here, back here by the power supply. We got one. There we go. Grab one more. Again, these are just the bronze colored bolts. We should be dealing with all the same bolts until we get to putting back on these trim pieces. So, all right, got those 2 in. Now the next thing we want to put together is our little cartridge assembly thing. If you took the springs out, then you know you got to put the springs back. Basically, you're just pushing them down in this hole. Let's see, so we can get it down in there. And you just kind of compress them. and slide them under this little, there we go, this little nipple looking thing. So you do the same thing with the other side. There we go. And boom. There we go. Just make sure that it has its springiness, which it does, so we're good to go there. We'll slide this back on like we took it off. Let's see. There we go. Let's turn that. There we go. All right, now when you're putting this on, you want to make sure that once it clears like this little area for the bolt to go through, you want to make sure that that black piece is tucked under, because if it's not tucked under, you see it's gonna have like a little lift. It's probably gonna be hard to see, but you'll see that it's not sitting flush on the board. So you want to make sure that you have that, because if it's not doing that, it's not going to clear for you. And now it's definitely giving me a 1.5 right now. Let's see here. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna lift this board up some. See if we can snug it up under there. Let's see. Did I get it? Nope. Still didn't get it. Well, probably should have put this on before I slid the board in. That'd probably make it easier. So we're gonna take these 2 bolts out. That way you won't have to worry about this front piece right here getting in your way. Of course, now these bolts don't want to lift out. This screwdriver is always like sometimes magnetic and sometimes not. But I mean, it's not hard. We're just lifting this out a little bit. We'll slide this right back on like so. Make sure our lip right there is going under. So, which you just did. So now we have the lift. It's nice and flat. And then we'll just sit it right on back down. Let's see. I think that screw is getting in my way. Ah, that's what it is. Yeah. There we go. Okay, now it's magnetic again. Great. All right, so we got that set back down nice and flush. Everything's good. We can put our 2 bolts back. One. And 2. Okay. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is we want to put on our shield. The shield is going to pretty much be all the bolts that's holding this board down to this bottom part. Just slide that back on. This is a lot more difficult doing it where you can't really see it. Come on now. There it is. All right. Then we'll just take 6 of our... Oh, wow. Do not do that. I always forget. Every time I record, I always forget steps. Mostly, I guess, because I'm focused more on trying to like make sure everything's shown. We got to put the 6 bolts in for our lift thing, or for our cartridge thing. So 1 here, 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 and there. You want to make sure that the 2 in the middle, though, are the long ones. So the key to that is always putting them in first. That way you never forget it. I always put those ones in first. So let's see. There we go. One again. Just make sure they're snug. They don't have to be overly tight, but they do have to be snug. If you over tighten those, sometimes the this thing won't stay down. like when you try to close it, it'll just pop back up. So if you're having issues with that, then it's probably those bolts, or you don't have the lip underneath the board. Those two things will cause you issues when it comes to that that little like lever thing going up and down or staying down when you push it down. Right, we got two more. Oh. So the best part about Nintendo's is that all the bolts are so similar. Like you can just throw them all together and you really don't have to worry about forgetting like what bolt goes where, because 90% of the bolts are these little bronze ones. All right, so we got that on. Now we can put on our shield right there, and we will grab 6 more bolts. Now this shield part, this little metal part, might have bent some just from you cleaning it and moving it around, because I mean there's not much to it. It's just a little thin piece of plastic. So just if you feel like one of the bolts aren't going in or something, just take a look. It might have bent during you cleaning it or just moving it around. So you might have to bend it a little bit just so that the screw holes line up again. Again, nothing overly tight. You know, we're just putting the screws back in. Same ones we took out from same places we took them from. These should go in relatively easy, and yeah, like I said, there's just really no reason to like really tighten them like crazy. Nothing in here is moving, so like this thing is literally just going to go sit on a desk somewhere. It's not like, you know, it's going to be going through all this, you know, all this stress and stuff that these bolts have to be torqued a certain way. Just snug them up. Let's see. All right. That, and see, that one was a little off, so just had to grab my finger and push it in a little bit. There we go. Good. Okay, so we got all that done. So now, so mad I cut my table. So now we can focus on putting all the trim pieces back together. Now what you want to do is you want to put this Nintendo door flap, you want to put this in first, because these black pieces actually cover up these slots that we need access to. So just make sure you got the Nintendo up. It literally just falls, like you stick that side in, that side falls down, lay it back down, and then we take these. So we're basically sitting it just like this. Remember, it has the little hook, excuse me, and you are going to sit them right down on those little, like, let me see if I can hold this, but on these little ones right there. So they basically, you'll see the little outline. That's how they lay. This first one right here, what we want to do is we'll take this black one and we're going to slide that just like that, lay it down so it holds in place. The reason is because that one over here is actually one of the screws that holds that in place. So you want to do these two together. If not, you're going to have issues. You don't have to do anything special. It literally just lays down right on it. It doesn't go under. Let me see if I can show you. It doesn't go under that little piece. It just lays right on top of it. All it's doing is just almost just like a little retaining clip. So just put that on. Now these bolts are small, so it's going to be annoying. Just going to let you know that now. Just try your best. That's why I use this thing, so that once I line them up, I can just put that bolt in there, drive it in, and never worry about it again. Because I found having to turn them just is annoying. It's super annoying. I hate dealing with small screws. All right, come on, sit down in there. There we go. Ah, dang it. This one is probably one of the worst. It's because of where it is. Okay, there we go. Now we can do the other 2 screws that's going to be right there, because now you see, there it is. They're not moving anymore. So we can just drive these other 2 screws in, and then we'll put the one in for the back. There we go. You can see, so now got it. Opens, closes. You know, basically you just don't want it like super loose where it's like pat, pat, pat. That was the best sound effect I had. But yeah, so now flip it over, take this, slide it back on. All right, sorry about that. The HVAC guy actually had just showed up, so I had to let him in. We've been having an issue with our heating, so happy he showed up. They're trying to get that fixed. So now we can finish this off. Where were we? Okay, we were putting these trim pieces in. So now we're gonna put these last 2 small bolts in down here at the bottom to hold in this trim piece. And there we go. One. And let's see. And 2. There we go. Make sure this one is in. All right. All right. Okay. So now we got that. That's kind of what that's looking like now. So see, it's definitely a lot better than what it was. So now we just, come on over here. Sit that down like so on the top. And we flip it over. Now we put our 6 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we are done. Then we just snap this piece on at the end to finish it off. Yeah. Like I said, if you're not doing the de-yellowing, like you could probably get all this done. I would say within an hour, especially if it's like your first time doing it. May take you an hour, maybe hour and a half, but it's not overly complicated, especially for these older consoles. Most of it is just unused space, to be honest. Like, this thing is really hollow on the inside. There's not many small moving parts or anything like that. You know, any little springs or anything crazy that could just like jump out at you, and then you don't know where they came from. So then you kind of, it's like, oh gosh, like I already know. Like, when that happens, it already discourages you. You already feel like you messed it up, like it's not going to go back right. So it's a good thing about these older consoles. You normally don't run into that. Actually, I can't think of an older one that I've had that happen with yet. Let's see. Here. Oh no. There. They also make like those 72 pin connector cleaners. They're almost like built like a cartridge. They just have like a grip on the end. I think you put like a cleaning solution on the, like, it's kind of like a rough part, and you just put that in there and you keep doing that. God, that's a horrible motion. But you keep doing that and that cleans it without you having to open it up. So you can also try that if you don't feel comfortable doing this. That's also a route you can take. This last piece, we just put that on. That's it. We have ourselves a Nintendo. So yay. Let's throw it over here. We're gonna hook it back up and put a game in it. We'll see if we can get it to play. All right, so we're over here. We got it hooked up. And now only thing we need is a game. So let's grab a game. Throw that in there. Oh shoot, how about you push it down, huh? And there we go. So, play some Super Mario World. I mean, Super Mario Bros, I guess. But yeah, Looks good. Oh, no. It's weird how much different these older games play than the new ones. Is it this one? No. Oh, it was this one. Yes, the old brain remembers from childhood. Well, yeah, I mean, it's playing good. Playing just like a brand new one would play. So that's what I mean. It's not a whole lot to these. If you got one sitting around and doesn't play the games the way it used to, doesn't take much. But that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.